Good afternoon. To all of you here and online, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Sacramento. I'm Kurt Schmidt. These are my sons, Nick and Ben Schmidt, and we gather here to celebrate and honor the amazing life of Tonie Darling. We want you to know that we've been overwhelmed by the phenomenal outpouring of love and generosity over the last several months. And for that, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. On one of our morning walks, I turned to Tonie and I said, "You know, Tonie, I could fill a cathedral with how many people would want to come and pay you honor." And without hesitation, she just said, just have the church do a web service, a Zoom service. They're good at it now. And they are. Hopefully this will be recorded nice and smoothly, and I intend to leave it online. I will publish as best I can the link to it. The other detail I want to say is that I asked her thoughts on content for a day like this. And she pretty much blew me off. She said, that we have our own copy of the hymnal of this church. And she says, I left a little list in there. It was 4 songs out of a lifetime of being a Unitarian and 2 passages. So you're going to hear some, but not all of that. So I have had to fill in the rest. And you're going to hear the music of some of my best friends, played really well. And I figured a lot of bass and trombone and piano and some singing to, let her have her way. Anyway, it served her right after all these years of listening to all that. So, welcome.
Good afternoon. In Unitarian Universalist congregations, we start our services with the lighting of a flame in a vessel crafted in the form of a chalice. This flaming chalice is a symbol of our open faith. Today we kindle this flame in honor of Tonie's lifelong involvement as a Unitarian Universalist and her service in many congregations, including this one, as a trustee and as our board president. As Kurt mentioned, Tonie selected words for the service, including these words from Dr. Albert Schweitzer. It is a fitting choice, for it reflects Tonie's legacy of mentorship to so many colleagues and her life of encouragement of countless friends and loved ones. And then her sons, Nick and Ben, will light the chalice. Okay, so these are the words. At times our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
We're off to a good start. Good afternoon. It's wonderful to see all of you here today in honor of Tonie. Thank you so much for being here. I'm the Reverend Lucy Bunch, serving this congregation along with my co-minister, the Reverend Roger Jones. We gather here this afternoon because of the death of a woman. But even more, we gather here because of her life and the way her life touched ours. We come together to celebrate the life of Tonie Darling. And we come together to show our love and support for Tonie's family who are gathered here today. Though we gather at this time of grief, it is wonderful to see this gathering of communities that make up Tonie's world. It is good to be together. Each of us grieves, and when we grieve together, the healing can begin. Just by being here, each of us gives comfort to everyone else. We are joined as a compassionate family on this afternoon in our time together, joined in our love and admiration for Tonie and all that she was to us. At times like this, words frequently fall short of what we really want to say. Yet we find ourselves trying to express not only our grief, but also our joyful feelings for Tonie. We recall our love for her and her love for us. So in our time together today, let us be honest about death. Tonie would want nothing less from us. Let us not pretend that it is less than it is. It is separation. It is sorrow. It is grief. The world will not be the same without Tonie darling. But let us neither pretend that death is more than it is. It is not annihilation. Tonie has left her mark on this world, and as long as spirit flows, her presence will be with us. Let us honor her memory today in our shared celebration of her life and our shared sorrow at her death. And so we begin by singing together a hymn that Tonie chose for this occasion. Please rise in body or spirit. We will sing Love Will Guide Us. And if you don't have a hymnal, find someone to share with. And you're going to give us an intro. There's a lot of attention given these days to authenticity, striving for it ourselves, looking for it in others. We are longing to find someone who means what they say and shows us who they really are. Tonie Darling was a shining example of someone living their life authentically. She was the same person in all the various roles of her life, whether at work, at home, at church, or with family and friends. The same person. And that person was fiercely loving, family and community-oriented, strong-willed, brilliant, articulate, committed to fairness and justice, and ready to have fun. As many people have described her, Tonie was a force of nature. Her brother Don told me that these qualities showed up in her at a young age, making her a bit of an outlier in the family of 5 kids. She didn't take crap from anyone, and she had strong opinions on just about anything. Tonie really wanted to make a difference in the world. Even in high school, she had a strong sense of justice and fairness, likely inspired by her father, but taken to a new level by Tonie's commitment and energy. She fought for fairness all of her life. You can read in the obituary in the program all the details of her long, productive legal career. Tonie worked for federal and state bureaucracies for her entire career. But she had this gift. She could navigate skillfully between her role of representing the government and looking out for the government's interests and working within the system to make it fairer for those who didn't have the wherewithal to make it through the complex bureaucratic maze. In her work with the federal bankruptcy court, she was a fierce advocate for those who didn't have the help or legal representation to navigate the system. She was instrumental in creating a help desk to provide self-represented parties legal support. You can just imagine how many people were helped by that. Her son, Nick, who heard all her stories and challenges at the family dinner table, described her as a fierce advocate for the powerless, uninformed consumer. Yay. Another one of Tonie's superpowers was her dedication to mentoring less experienced lawyers and giving them access to professional events and resources that they may not have had on their own. I'm sure that many of you here this afternoon have benefited from her mentorship. In recognition of her commitment to mentoring, the Sacramento chapter of the Federal Bar Association and the Sacramento Valley Bankruptcy Forum have created a memorial fund to carry on her legacy of professional mentorship. You can read about it in your program and learn how you can donate to this fund. From my own experience with Tonie, I know she could be very enthusiastic in her mentoring. I felt incredibly supported and encouraged by her enthusiasm. Tonie was a member of the congregation that supported and mentored me during my training for ministry. I remember one sermon I gave to that congregation, and Tonie rushed up afterwards, came to me, eyes alight, hands waving. That's the sermon you need to do when you're in search for a ministry position. The energy of her comments was electrifying. I can remember it vividly. It's in my heart. I have seen, felt, and appreciated her turbocharged enthusiasm. Some of you here have experienced that as well. In her mentorship with the people that she supervised, she always stressed the need for work-life balance. And for Tonie, that meant family came first. In her work environment, there was never very much support for working mothers like there is in general in our culture. But she was clear and unwavering in her priorities. Family first. Whether it was attending events for Nick or Ben, or being at home so that Kurt could go off on a rehearsal and someone was there with the kids. Family was first. This commitment included her extended family as well. She was the glue that held the family together, arranging for family vacations and reunions. She thrived on maintaining connections with both family and friends, arranging for parties, gatherings, extending invitations to dinner or the theater. If there was an important event in your life, Tonie would be there, dressed well and ready to help. She was that friend who made the effort to keep you connected with her. And she loved to have fun. She enjoyed herself with the same gusto and enthusiasm that she brought to other parts of her life. Tonie had an effervescence about her that was contagious. Kurt told me that the first time he saw her and saw that effervescence in her, he was totally enchanted. And she loved Christmas. Everything about it, from the 40-some-odd nutcrackers of every shape, size, and description that she would display, to the Christmas music, the food, the family, and the Hallmark movies. Don't you dare say anything rude about any of those Hallmark movies. She knows they're contrived and formulaic, and she doesn't want to hear about it from you. She celebrated Christmas as a time when you could imagine the world was all that it could be. Peace on earth, goodwill to all. A magical time, like a bubble of beauty and goodness in a challenging and troubled world. The authenticity in which Tonie lived her life, she brought that to her death as well. I have never seen anyone in my life as clear and frank about her diagnosis and prognosis when she was communicating it to church colleagues, friends, clear and frank. No beating around the bush for Tonie. It was actually a relief to have her so clearly name things. Inspiring. Tonie looked death in the eye with clarity and courage. And she did everything she possibly could to stay alive. But it was not to be. I remember how much my heart sank when I read that Caring Bridge message announcing that she was ending treatment and beginning hospice. Tonie knew when to fight, and she knew when to let go. Life had taught her that. Her biggest worry about dying was how it would affect Kurt, Nick, and Ben, her beloved family. I remember after her diagnosis, she told me that she wasn't afraid of death, but she didn't want her family to be without her. But in her last days, she let herself be held in their love as they, along with her brothers, held vigil. Several of those present told me that at the point where they felt like her spirit had left her body, the lights flickered and the power went out. And they found out later on that more than 4,000 homes had lost power. Coincidence? Maybe. But it's easy to believe that the force of nature that is Tonie Darling, when she transitioned to another dimension, there was a rupture in the electrical field. In the end, her death itself felt like a great unfairness. Ironic for someone who dedicated their life to fairness. Though she lived a turbocharged life, 68 years was not enough. But it's what we had with her, and we're going to have to live with that. We also need to learn to live by her values, to continue what she started. We need to let her life inspire us to continue her commitment to fairness, to connection, to being fiercely present in the world. As you reflect on the ways that Tonie touched your life, I encourage you to start thinking about how you're going to take that inspiration and put it into action. Is there someone that you can mentor? Is there a door you can open for someone who's had that door closed? Are there family and friends that you need to reach out to and connect with? Then do it. Do it for Tonie. Do it to keep her spirit alive and active in this world. She was a force of nature, and her energy and spirit are there for us to draw on to continue her legacy. Our deep runs grief. But after a time, we're going to be okay without you, Tonie. I knew you would want it that way. I know you want us to be okay. And we're going to do our best for that. Because we knew you and loved you, and we are changed forever. Your Spirit lives on to inspire us all to live as you lived, to change the world in ways for the better. Rest in peace. We love you. And now we're going to have some remembrances from family and friends of Tonie. First, we'll hear from her friend Marilyn. Thank you. You can take your mask off if you want. I'm going to.
Tonie and I were friends for 45 years, and it was a very organic friendship. We were in and out of each other's houses so much it was like we were next-door neighbors, even though we rarely lived closer than 2 hours from each other. She decided that she was my children's godmother. And my children knew that they could safely land with her. She could safely land with Tonie and Kurt. Tonie was there for me through most of my major life events, and most of the minor ones too. From law school graduation to weddings to my judicial investiture, she knew how to make that into something really special. For me, it was just like another day of work, new job. My big question is, where is she? She would have helped me through this. She would have been the one who would have told me how to do this. And I might not have always followed her direction, but there was always a nugget in there, There was a nugget of how to do these things. Anyway, many of you know a lot about Tonie and what an avid reader she was. But I don't know how many of you knew, that she wrote a children's book. It's called Bunny's Big Adventure. And I'm going to read it. And then I'm going to give it to you boys. Tonie wrote this either 37 or 38 years ago, before you two were born. Here goes. Once upon a time, in a magical place called San Francisco, lived a special little boy named Jonah. Jonah's my older son. Jonah was a sunny person with rosy cheeks and big blue eyes. Jonah had a family, and best of all, he had a little friend named Bunny. Bunny was a stuffed rabbit with floppy ears and a yellow ribbon. We still have the bunny. I don't know what happened to the yellow ribbon. Now Jonah loved Bunny very much, and they were very close friends. Jonah took Bunny with him on camping trips, to the babysitters, to the park, everywhere. Then one Christmas, Jonah was given a new friend, Bear. Jonah thought he was the luckiest fellow around with 2 stuffed friends. Bunny wasn't so sure, though. He didn't know if Jonah would still love him as much, what with Big Fuzzy Bear around. On New Year's Eve that year, Jonah's friends, Kurt and Tonie, came to visit. They lived far away in Louisiana. They all played and visited and ate good food, then went to sleep. Early the next morning, Tonie and Kurt packed and got ready to fly home. Bunny saw Kurt's coat pocket open, and suddenly he decided he wanted to go away. He jumped into the coat pocket and hid. Kurt and Tonie went to the airport and got on a plane. The coat with Bunny in the pocket was put in the overhead bin. The plane touched touched out the runway, gathered speed, and zoomed into the air. 3 hours later, the plane landed in Dallas. Kurt reached into the overhead bin and started laughing. Tonie asked, "What could possibly be so funny in the bin?" Kurt showed her Bunny peeking out of Kurt's pocket. Bunny was a stowaway, and being up in the bin, he hadn't even gotten breakfast. Well, Kurt and Tonie had an hour before the next plane to Shreveport, so they bought some trail mix. Bunny was very hungry, so he dove in. Then he helped Tonie read her book and to make friends with other passengers. Oh, here's Bunny reading. Bunny liked all the attention he was getting, and he sure liked being out of the pocket. Then Bunny, Kurt, and Tonie got on the plane for Shreveport, but this time Bunny got to sit in a seat. When Bunny got to Tonie and Kurt's house, he was tired. Kurt asked Bunny if he'd like to listen to some music. Bunny said yes. He listened to several pieces, but he liked Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony best. Bunny decided to get a little more comfortable and enjoy the music. Oh, here's the more comfortable. Here's Bunny listening. The next day, Tonie told Bunny that they had to call Jonah and tell him that Bunny was all right. Bunny said, "Oh, Jonah probably doesn't know I'm gone." But Tonie insisted, and Bunny said, "We'll call tomorrow." That day, Bunny did some sightseeing. Since he was in Louisiana, at least he should get some good out of it. Tonie and Kurt agreed, and first stop was the bayou. Bunny saw 2 men fishing from a funny-looking boat. Here's the boat back here. He asked the men what kind of boat it was. They said it was a bateau, a flat-bottom boat, meant for shallow water like a bayou. A bayou is a body of water off a river or a lake, but it doesn't flow like a river. It just goes up and down when the water level rises or falls. Bunny thought that was very interesting, but then he saw something more interesting. Ducks! Big ducks, little ducks, ducklings all over the place. The mama duck was teaching the babies how to swim, fish, and avoid snags in the bayou. Bunny just sat on the edge of the bayou watching the ducks. They all looked so happy together. One big happy family. Suddenly, Bunny missed Jonah. Here's some more of Bunny. When Bunny got back to the house, he asked Tonie to call Marilyn, Jonah's mom. The call was made, and Marilyn said that Jonah had been so worried. Jonah was so happy to hear Bunny was safe. Bunny said to tell Jonah that he would be home very soon. But before Bunny left, he wanted to go for a ride on the famous River Rose, a paddle wheel boat that runs on the Red River. Kurt and Tonie took Bunny down and showed him the River Rose. Then all 3 went for a ride. The ride was so fun. The river looks different. This is Kurt here. The river looks different from water level. After the ride, Bunny wanted another picture showing the smokestack and paddle wheel of the River Rose. Then Bunny went shopping to get some souvenirs. A couple of picture postcards. Here's one. Here's another postcard. And a rubber, I don't know how they say it there, crawfish. Crawfish, okay. By that time, Bunny was ready to go home. He packed up his things, and Tonie and Kurt put Bunny on a plane to go home to his friend Jonah. Bunny really missed Jonah and his family. When Bunny got home, Jonah hugged him so hard. He said he had really missed Bunny. Bunny said, "Well, you had Bear." Jonah said to Bunny, "Oh, Bunny, I love you because you are Bunny. I love Bear because he's Bear. He couldn't take your place, and I'm so happy you were all home." Bunny just smiled and knew he was loved. So he lived happily ever after in San Francisco with Jonah, his family, and Bear, his new friend. The end. This was all written on lined paper by Tonie. Oh, did have, that's when my daughter was born, which was still before Nick and Ben were born. They treated her ultimately as the daughter they never had. She found a safe place with them also. And my son went to UC Davis, partially because he knew they lived in Sacramento and that he could have home nearby. And then the last thing I want to say is Jonah played baseball when he was in college, and he played at Land Park. And Tonie went to his games. She went to all but one of his games, and I was up there for his last game. And one of the other parents said to me, "Oh, who are you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm Jonah's mom." And she looked at me and said, "Well, then who is she?" Anyway, this copy of this book is for Nick and Ben. I'll put it back together for you. And thank you. That's it. I'll be back here crying.
And now we want to invite Tonie's cousin Linda to come on up and share some remarks.
I'm Linda, one of the 15 first cousins, and according to Tonie, her favorite. When Kurt called to ask if I'd say a few words today, I was honored. He said he wanted strong women to speak. I first thought that I wasn't strong enough to speak, but then I realized that facing one's fears head on was a symbol of strength. Tonie faced her diagnosis head on, which made her stronger. We didn't see each other very often growing up. They lived in Stockton, we lived here, our fathers both worked, and it was just, didn't get down there very often. But when we did get together, it was as if we'd grown up together. I remember her as fun, honest, open, smart, and oh, so very, very strong. As adults, we became friends. When she moved back to California from Louisiana, when Ben was an infant, I think he was pretty small, I went over to her house to reconnect and get to know her again. I was working on my credential and starting my teaching career, and she was raising 2 sons and getting settled in Sacramento. So we didn't see as much of each other as I would have liked, but life. Within the next few years, at one point, my parents had an after Thanksgiving party for all the cousins. Several years later, Tonie took it over, and it became an annual tradition, one I never missed, ever. No matter what I was doing, I always made sure I was in town to do that. When she moved to San Francisco to practice, to work there, and lived here on the weekends, she got season tickets to the Golden Gate Theater to see some musicals. She knows I love musicals. She invited me to go with her one time. So I chose Hello Dolly, which is one of my favorite shows. Took the train. She met me at the station, across the bridge. We walked to her apartment, had a wonderful dinner, and got to talking to the point where we almost missed the show. We had to walk everywhere, so we just couldn't stop chit-chatting. And then a few months later, she won tickets to the opera here, and she asked me to go again. I think Kurt had practice or something. And again, we almost missed the show because we were having so much fun talking and reminiscing and carrying on. She was tough. As a lawyer, she had to be. It was that toughness that helped her fight her cancer. When I called to tell her my father had passed away, her uncle, she told me that she was having some health issues, but didn't have anything to share specifically. It wasn't until his memorial that she finally shared her diagnosis. She was so sensitive, so caring, she didn't want to burden me with her diagnosis when I was dealing with my own father's death. She and Kurt took the most aggressive treatment path so she could fight harder to beat it. Another testament to her strength and her toughness. While the world definitely feels darker without her in it, her light and strength will continue to guide us.
Thank you, Linda. And now Alice and Claire, Tonie's friend.
She was a force of nature, wasn't she? And I was so privileged to get to witness that force of nature, both in her religious community and in her professional community. I met Tonie in the mid-1990s when I first visited the UU Community Church in South Sacramento, looking for an intergenerational liberal religious community into which to bring kids. And Tonie was one of the first people to greet me, and she greeted me then the way she greeted newcomers in that congregation and this one for the next 25 years, with that megawatt smile, as if she was re-meeting her long-lost best friend. And somehow, without interrogating me, she learned enough about me to be able to introduce me to just the right people who were connected to just the right activities that I might enjoy, right? She was building community, networking right there. And what I observed as I dove headlong into that congregation was that Tonie was one of those people who saw a need and rolled up her sleeves and got to work. Leadership was about service for her, and she led by example, by diving in. And I think over the years that we were both members of that congregation, although we sometimes overlapped and served on the same committees and on the board of trustees, we were among those who rotated among the leadership positions. She was always doing something, leading something, organizing, and her model of lay leadership that taught me so much was always about lifting up other people, identifying other people's interests and gifts and commitments so she could grow them into leaders to whom she could pass a baton. But also she cared about organization, right, and institutional growth, not for itself, but because of the people it served. It was alive for her. It was about relationship and connection and service. But the thing I remember most about Tonie from church in those early days, and we both knew that we were both lawyers, right? We were even both in the federal system, but our worlds were parallel, not overlapping at that time. What I remember about her is the way she was with the kids in the congregation. My triplets were treated by almost everyone when they were little as a set, right? The triplets. And Tonie, she enjoyed as much as anyone how cool that was. But she, from the time they could make independent eye contact, treated them as individual human beings. And she wanted to find out who each of them was as a person. And she took that approach to every child in that congregation. She knew their names. She would hang out with them at potluck and talk to them and find out what they were doing in their lives. And I saw her, and it was such a model to me about the parent I wanted to be, relating to her own kids and talking to her adult friends about her kids with the same appreciation she put in the story about Bunny and Bear, right? She would talk about and brag about Nick's Nickness and Ben's Benness, right? And revel in who each of you were as individual humans, different from each other, different from your mom and dad, but each yourself. And that was how she approached everybody of every age. My Jay said to me when I told them about Tonie's death, oh, she was a gift of an adult to be a kid around, right? And that really got it. So when our professional world started overlapping more, when I went to work in the federal building where we both had been making our court appearances for a long time, I got to see Tonie bringing those same gifts and strengths and passions to the legal community. I had known for a long time that she was active in the Federal Bar Association and in the Bankruptcy Bar Association and in our district conference, but I hadn't witnessed it. And as Lucy said at the beginning, she was the same Tonie everywhere she was, and I saw her in those legal contexts rolling up her sleeves the same way she did at church, lifting up newer people who could step into the leadership roles the same way she did at church. And it moved me and created a role model for me. So how fitting this memorial fund that the bar associations have created. How fitting. I'll just say in closing that Tonie, she was a lifelong Unitarian Universalist. And for those of you who aren't familiar with us, we're a religion without a creed. We don't proselytize, but we live our values. And Tonie lived her lifelong UU values everywhere. Here, at work, in the community, and those values were respect for the inherent worth and dignity of every person. People she agreed with and people she didn't. People like her and people different than her. She exemplified that. A commitment to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. She pursued that in her own life, and she encouraged her boys and the children in our congregation and all of her friends to pursue their own search for truth and meaning. And if some of us came up with different paths or different ideas than she had, she wanted to discuss them, right? She modeled the commitment to democratic process, not only in the capital P political sense, but within the community. And she modeled a respect for the interdependence of all life and all being, something that she shares with her loved ones and with all of us. And for all of that, Tonie, I will always love you and remember you and hope to honor you. Thanks all of you for being here to do the same.
Thank you, Allison. We have a reading selected by Tonie from our gray hymnal that will be offered by her friends Jim Eastman and Fred Denicky, by George Odell.
We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid.
We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone.
We need one another in the hour of success when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another in the hour of defeat when, with encouragement, we might endure and stand again.
We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us.
All our lives we are in need, and others in need of us.
Thank you. We have just a few minutes to invite you to think about a glimpse, a brief anecdote, a word or two of appreciation of life with Tonie. And we'll have an opportunity for some people to speak. I will have the microphone and bring it around so you can introduce yourself and be heard by people in the room and people on Zoom. And if you're on Zoom, we invite you to type your remembrance, your appreciation in the chat. And Reverend Lucy will intersperse readings from the Zoom chat in the remarks that we have here in the room, and then everything that is typed in the chat will be printed out and given to the family after the service.
Hi, I'm Sherida. Hi, I'm Sherida, Tonie's big sister. When she was born, I was 3 years old, and I thought there has never been as beautiful a child in the world. She always was. Our grandmother, Gail Darling, taught us when we were very young of a concept called noblesse oblige, which means those who have are obligated to serve those who do not. My grandmother lived that value, and so did Tonie. I know that Heavenly Father is putting his A-team together, and she's with them. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Ed G, and My name's Ed G, and I've known Tonie for about 20 years. I'm a federal attorney working for the Department of Justice, and she was my boss for 10 years. Again, she was my boss for 20 years. I'm my boss for 10 years, and I'm currently the assistant U.S. trustee in Sacramento, so I'm humbled and honored to follow in her footsteps. In case you are wondering, she was a great boss. We're very lucky to have had her as our boss. And certain words come to my mind when I think of Tonie: energetic, positive, unstoppable. For many of us who know her, we know that September 19th is a very special day for her. I don't know if any of you know what September 19th is. It's International Talk Like a Pirate Day. And she would celebrate it in the office, and you either embraced it or you spent your day in court that day. But she really enjoyed that day, and it really was, symbolic of Tonie. She would arrive in the office not only talking like a pirate, but also dressed like a pirate. She'd bring chocolate doubloons and the pirate flag, the Jolly Roger, and then all the employees, each of us, would be given an unflattering pirate name for the day. So earlier today, I Googled the pirate name generator, and I typed in Tonie's name, and the name that came up was Captain Kate Sea Dog. So Tonie, I just want to say we're blessed to have known you.
I'm going to share from Stephen Walker. She says that
there we go. That Tonie barely knew me when my family had to move, but she showed up and helped me clean our house. Full force, organized, effective, and must have put in 10 hours. I was so lucky not only to have her help, but have gotten that time to talk to her and get to know her. I was looking forward to talking to her again, and it broke my heart to learn that she had to go through this illness. Her memory is a bright light, grateful, and remember her. I'll always be reminding myself from now on, what would Tonie do?
Hi, I'm Greta Brewer-Bakken, and aside from growing up in the UUCC with Tonie and her wonderful family, I also did a lot of house sitting, which I'm sure a lot of you here know about, because I house sat for you. The first time I ever came over to Tonie's house to house sit, she was showing me around and showing me the dog. It was Lucky at the time. Wonderful doggo. And the last thing she said to me was, hey, you could just throw a party and invite a whole bunch of people over if you wanted. And I kind of, if you know me, you know I am not the partying type. I'm very much a reader, secluded kind of person. And I kind of looked at her and went, Tonie, I would never trash your house. And she goes, oh, just trash it. You can clean it up later. And that was kind of essentially Tonie to me. She never really let much faze her. She didn't nitpick at the things that might set other people on edge. And she's just a really chill person. So I learned a lot about that from her.
I have a comment here from Blake. He says, in high school, our group of friends would frequently hang out at the Darling Schmidt house. While we all had parents at home, when we were at their house, Tonie was a surrogate mom to all of us. She would always make time to check in on us and ask about our lives, always wanting to know about new and exciting things. She made sure we had money for pizza and would often bring in a plate of homemade cookies. Even when Nick was in retreat or off at college, she encouraged us to come by and swim in their pool and catch up. She was a bright light and a kind soul.
Hi, I'm Annette, and I've known Tonie for about 30 years, and I can think of camping trips, and I don't know how many UU committees, because that's what we do. And, just there's auctions and everything, but I do remember once we had a breakfast group of Jim and Fred and Tonie and Kurt and several others. And at one of them, Tonie said, oh, well, I need to leave because I'm going to go to yoga and then I'm going to get my nails done. And I go and do this for myself and I am worth it. And I thought that's the most liberating thing I've ever heard of saying those words out loud. And I learned from it. So we loved you all, Tonie. All of us loved you so much.
I have a memory from Allison Randall. She says, besides our memory of Tonie welcoming our family to UUCC, Dexter recalls several wonderful auction dinners at Kurt and Tonie's home with the best baked fennel and unique lemonades.
I, too, am a UU Unitarian for all my life. And I was working at Target many, many years ago. And Tonie came through the check lanes with a check, and I was a cashier supervisor, and I had to approve this check. And it was from UUCC. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's UUCC. I've never heard of that. This is my church, UUSS, and as a child. And she goes, well, you should attend. Come next Sunday. We meet at this location. And I did, and I stayed. And I came here later when my daughter was a little older, and it's all of you. And so she was my spark to come back to church. Aww. When we needed it a lot.
Hi, my name is Liz Long, and I knew Tonie from the YMCA. And the boys came to the Y when they were really small and the programs throughout. But Tonie became a member of the board, and her reason for becoming a board member was to get the CEO fired. And she was very proud of that story, and she would tell it to you, and that's where I met her. And the CEO at that time, they became lifelong friends.
Hi, Paul. I knew Tonie for 59 years. She was my big sister. But I really got to know her when I was 6, at least the quality of her character. It was the toast incident, which my brothers remember well. I think she was babysitting for us, and we were making cinnamon toast at the toaster, and somebody made a mess. And I don't remember at this point who it was, but it wasn't me. And Tonie came home, and she saw the mess that wasn't cleaned up, and 3 boys with sugar smeared on their faces, no doubt. And her sense of justice was fired up immediately. And as I recall it, we were all locked in our rooms until the truth came out. I don't even remember what the truth was, but it didn't matter. It showed me something about my sister, that she was a total badass and truly awesome as a human being. And I always so admired her and loved her. But beyond that, and it's really nice to hear about her work and things that I really never saw, and her church too, because I was never a part of that part of her life. And it's great to hear so much. And spending a little private time with Kurt and finding out new things about her that I didn't know. And you realize, you grow up with someone and you don't know everything. As close as you can be, there's plenty that you don't know. But, the quality of her character and the quality of her heart, you can see from everyone here, and her amazing sons and the beautiful relationship she had with Kurt. I mean, what an amazing human. So lucky to have called her my sister.
I have one more to share. This is from Zach Darling and Chelsea Shover. They say, this has been a beautiful tribute. We can feel the love and wish we were there in person today. Kurt, Nick, and Ben, you have been in our hearts. We love you.
We know there are many more glimpses, words of appreciation, and wonderful stories here. And if you're here in person, we hope you will stay for the reception, which will be out there, also to sign the book in the welcome hall and see the pictures. And thank you for being here.
We're going to sing again. I'm going to give you a little more time to find the song. So go ahead and start playing for us, Jim. And it's 354, We Laugh, We Cry. This is a really favorite one of the Unitarian Universalist Community Church. 354.
We sing our song. We need to feel that
to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We seek for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found the joy being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we finally see even to question truly is an answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Now I invite you to join me in the spirit of blessing and letting go as I offer these words of prayer. O Spirit of life, O Spirit of love everlasting, touch us all with comfort and grace, now and in the days to come. We give our thanks for this time together and for the affection, gratitude, and grief which will continue to hold us together in spirit. May the days to come bring to us a greater understanding of ourselves, of one another, and of life itself. We give thanks for Tonie Darling's amazing life and for having shared this life with her. As we let her go, we hold on to the loving memories that endure to enrich our days. Remembering her gifts of generosity and care, joy and enthusiasm, encouragement and love, we lift our hearts in gratitude for all the ways that she has touched our lives and blessed our world. Now, in these moments, we say farewell to Tonie. We let her go into the arms of eternity, where the living and the dead of all the ages join as one human family. We entrust her to the Spirit of love, which will never let us go. We entrust her to the source of love which sustains us, holds us, and connects us, all of us, forever. So may it be. Blessed be, and amen.
We now conclude this service of remembrance and celebration for the life of Tonie Darling. Please join us in the welcome hall and out on the patio for refreshments, sharing of stories, commiserating, and viewing a slideshow of Tonie's life. As we prepare to move into the rest of this day and the rest of our lives, let us resolve to bring the best of ourselves into the living of our lives, to bless one another, bringing peace, kindness, and compassion into this world. May the days to come bring us a greater understanding of ourselves, of one another, and of life itself. And as we leave, may the radiance of memory, the blessing of community, and the warmth of love be ours now and in all the days to come. Blessed be.